In today's world, we are increasingly dependent on technology. Our business and personal lives rely on it, but as you've probably noticed, it's unreliable. They promise it'll get better, but it usually gets worse. Our computers are slow, so we end up squinting at smartphones and tablets. We live in constant fear that something's going to happen to our personal data, so we're scared into paying for fake protection that proves useless when disaster strikes. Update attacks, fake Wi-Fi, cloud control, and other industry scandals are designed to keep the money flowing. The jokers we pay to fix our stuff have no clue what they're doing, so they do a virus scan and then wipe out our precious photos. Intelligent, successful people feel intimidated by the chaos and think it's somehow their fault. If they only knew what the industry was doing to them, they'd get torches and pitchforks. If only we had someone to explain it all in plain English so we can start protecting ourselves. Oh wait, we do! It's the Computer Exorcist Podcast with your host, Mark Anthony Arena.
From the Wallace Memorial microphone in my home office, somewhere in Western New York, it's the Computer Exorcist Podcast. It's the beginning of February 2023, and as promised, we are doing an episode with our very special occasional co-host. Welcome, Dr. Mike.
Thank you, Mark. It's great to be back on the podcast, and I'm happy to be here. I do have to say I've listened to the first few episodes, and I am truly, truly impressed with the setup. I love the intro voiceover. I love the music selection. It's very high energy, gets me amped up every time. It makes me want to take my Shoppers Club card, go to Chase Pickin and buy some discount lumber.
That's amazing. Background on Dr. Mike, he escaped Rochester, and because he no longer has to put up with it on a daily basis, he actually misses it and actually thinks of it fondly.
Yeah, I still think Rochester is back in 1998 before everything started going downhill.
Back when it had industry, and back before every single building was a Dunkin' Donuts and a CBD shop.
Absolutely. Now I have to ask, Mark, because your dad was a lot handier than I am than mine was. But I remember my dad going into Chase Pickin, not Lowe's, not Home Depot. We didn't have any of that stuff back then. We went into Chase Pickin, and every time my dad came out, he walked a little taller, his chest puffed out a little bit more. It was like it was like a dose of manhood that he needed to get. I don't know, did your dad have that same thing coming out of Chase Pickin, or?
That's a good question. I mean, my dad drove a work van, so I mean that's just manliness all day long.
But I mean, you walk out of there and you're like, yeah, I can fix a bathroom, and then you realize that no, you can't.
But while you were in there, you felt like you could.
You could remodel the whole room of a house if you really wanted to, and redo the electrical if you wanted to. You walk out, and all that confidence just went to pot.
And I can say this now that Chase Pickin is out of business, but I worked there for a month, and I walked in there, it was during college, and I said, I'm the son of an electrician, and I know all these electrical parts, so I can work for you guys. And they said, yeah, sure, whatever, kid. And they hired me, and they plopped me in gardening.
It's amazing with all the endless money Wegmans has that they let their Chase Pickin division just completely go under.
Well, you know, there were articles about this because I mean, come on, I sold a juice bar one time for a couple grand, so why couldn't they sell Chase Pickin, which was a really highly regarded, fondly considered
The locals
business.
loved it. The locals loved Chase Pickin.
And apparently there were articles where they just said they had to cut their losses and they wanted to focus on growing Wegmans. And well, who knows, maybe a couple years from now, the millennials working there will bring it back in a act of nostalgia.
Well, you know, the goal was to get out of Rochester. My dad was saying now Wegmans is putting a store in the Villages down in Florida. So
are they?
They are.
I've heard some of my clients told me about the Villages. Really?
They are. So now all of the residents of the villages can get their Wegmans fix.
Really, I love how you said the goal was to
The goal is to get
Wegman's
out of
goal, my
Rochester.
goal, your goal.
Yes. Now I can look from my ivory tower in Southwest Ohio and see how the minions are doing back in Rochester.
And I'm telling you, like I'd love to just make fun of Rochester for the whole episode, but that I'm telling you, you got to do your own show where we do that.
If we may have to have a intro pilot episode for that.
Let's do it. Let's do it next week. Let's do it. And I bet you anything your show, with minimal effort will achieve ridiculous skyrocketing success in like a week, whereas here I am 10 years into my
90% of my viewership will come from outside of Rochester, from people who used to live there.
Yeah, from all the expats, as it were.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's get into some articles. I believe this is a car show.
Yeah, that's right. So in my this is the famous briefcase from the show. It's actually just a little Trapper Keeper folder.
Hey. Didn't you use that in junior year English?
It could have been actually. Yeah, let's get a year on this. I don't know. These are the articles. I'm still getting through the backlog. I'm almost done with the backlog of articles that were in the briefcase. So we're gonna get through
the benefits of doing
months.
The benefits of doing a weekly show.
Is right. We're gonna get through all these. We're gonna flush them down the garbage disposal.
That's
get
right.
them all processed.
Bought at Chase Pickin, of course.
Oh, that's funny. As I laughed, this software just did a pop-up attack and said, "Shame on you, your microphone is noisy." All of you millennials need to just stop this. Just all software companies need to go out of business and stop with the suggestion attacks. I'm not a senior citizen. I know how to use my microphone. Leave me alone.
At least they didn't bombard you with an ad attack for garbage disposals from Home Depot.
Yeah, right. Right. Well, it would if we were on an Apple product.
Give it time. Yeah.
Oh.
Mark's inbox is going to have hardware store ads for the next 3 weeks.
Hey, we got a scammer on the line. Hello? 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 Oh, man.
Well,
that was cool.
He realized it was a Rochester area code and felt sorry for you.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna pay attention to my little phone here on my desk, and if it rings again, we're gonna interrupt whatever we're doing, and we're gonna harass that scammer live.
Breaking news: live harass a scammer. I love it. All right, let's go. Let's get into this.
Okay, so folks, this is a car episode. I got a lot of articles about cars, and I can't wait, because you've never been on a car episode, have you?
I have not, no.
Oh, this is great. We'll see what happens when we put a podiatrist up against a car article.
Well, I am coming to you from the land of what once was GM, Dayton, Ohio. So...
Yes, back when America had jobs, Ohio was the land of cars.
So maybe some car knowledge will come to me through osmosis, either that or just waxing poetic about GM in the 80s and 90s.
Back when their cars were square but cool.
It's basically the same conversation, just substitute GM in for Kodak.
Yeah. When I was visiting you back in 2016, I was fortunate enough to see on the highway Acura NSX prototype coming out of an Ohio factory.
Oh yes, yeah,
that was cool.
They still make some cars around here.
That was really cool. Okay, MarketWatch.com, January 2021. GM stock soars toward another record after Microsoft partnership on driverless cars. All right, I'll read
the stock soared, but the product tanked.
But exactly, I'll read. I'm only going to read a little bit of the article, but I'll give you my take on it, and then I'll let you slander them as you wish. Let you slaughter them.
Oh my goodness.
GM stock soared 9.1%. Blah blah blah. Nobody cares. Microsoft shares 1.3%. Nobody cares. Blah blah blah. Cruise will use Microsoft. Okay, so Cruise is GM's autonomous driving brand, right? They all have their own brands in order to confuse people. Cruise will use Microsoft's Azure cloud platform to commercialize its autonomous vehicles at scale, while Azure will use Cruise's industry expertise to enhance product innovation and serve its transportation customers. I can't. It's the worst of the
My
worst of the
God.
worst pairing with the worst of the worst of the worst, and the result will be the worst of the worst of the worst possibilities. But yeah, it's just the worst of the worst of the worst. And all right, folks, don't any of these GM employees recall my episode a couple years ago where I talked about the time Ford paired up with Microsoft for their Microsoft Sync infotainment system? And the president of Ford, Mr. Ford himself, got lost thanks to the Microsoft navigation app and punched the screen and shattered the screen in his dashboard.
Oh, Lord.
Do you remember that? Even if you
I
don't
do
listen to
remember
my
that.
show, it was on national news, folks.
I do remember that. I remember reading an article. I remember reading an article about that. It just, you know, when push comes to shove, you just have to, just like the old Nintendo machines that started to act up, you just have to give it a good smack across it. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't.
Maybe it'll,
You know,
it gets better. It gets better.
Okay.
Microsoft is a great addition to the team as we drive toward a future world of zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion, said GM genius Mary Barra. Zero crashes? Microsoft is the company that is known for nothing but crashes in the computer industry, so what do you think they're gonna help you do? You think Teslas are bad crashing into stuff? Wait till we see cars powered by Microsoft! Everyone's gonna be falling off of bridges left and right!
My gosh.
And by the way, Azure is Microsoft's 1991 era Windows Server, regurgitated, spray painted, and duct taped and band-aided, and turned into a rental product.
A rental product.
Yeah, so Microsoft Azure is their brand of cloud scandal, where they have 1991 Microsoft Server products that have been regurgitated and rented out to people, so that instead of your local scrawny or chubby computer guy dealing with it, they have an Indian guy in Microsoft's office in India have to pull his hair out and deal with the same product, except now they rent it to you and let their guy deal with it instead of your guy.
Oh my gosh. Does that lady at GM still have a job? I know this. We have to do a follow-up episode. After making those remarks, I'm pretty sure they let her go.
No, of course she has her job.
Well, she probably got promoted and
of course
is like third in line at the company.
We want a world of zero crashes. Let's team up with Microsoft. Yeah, they're gonna make a reliable autonomous car.
Well, is the car being produced in upstate New York?
It might as well be.
Just to put the cherry on top of this whole ordeal. I mean, it's such a bad product. You might as well just make it in upstate New York.
What else can we put? And by the way, it's probably financed by Bernie Madoff, and it's going to use gas from Enron. I mean, how much worse can it be?
Oh my gosh. Oh man.
And it's going to have a telephone cell service by what was the Global Crossing was the one that tanked?
No, MCI.
Yeah, MCI. And if you want to call home, you have to dial 10-10-321.
10-10-321, yes! Oh my goodness. I got your microphone appears to be noisy pop-up. Go away. Yeah, you're going to have to, it's 10 cents a minute for long distance, 5 cents a minute for local, or unless the number's in your fives or something. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We're going to partner with Microsoft and expect our cars to function.
If they're running it off of 1991 technology, are they going to have a 1991 Cellular One car phone in there too while we're at it?
Cellular One.
The giant bricks, the giant bricks that sat behind the stick shift between the driver's seat and the passenger seat.
Okay.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
All right, I got another article here. I love how like I couldn't read that article with a straight face.
You couldn't read that with
at
a straight
all.
face, and then you throw a 10-10-3-2-1 reference in there for me, and you know, this is just a flashback to 1997. I mean, good Lord. Goodness
Except in
gracious.
1997, cars actually ran because human beings were allowed to drive them.
They did. They didn't. Yeah, they were manufactured here in the good old US of A for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Remember, folks, in all seriousness, the cloud is a giant power grab scandal. Okay, first you had the Soviets, and now you have the cloud, which is the Soviets on steroids. The whole point here is to discredit you and make you think you aren't good enough to drive a car because 6 or 7 people can't drive cars. Therefore, all of humanity has to be subject to the control of a handful of arrogant people in Silicon Valley. That's the point. It's all a power grab.
It's a giant power grab. You know what? I remember, I got my driver's license in East Rochester just like everyone else. I passed my driver's test. I don't know why everyone's so afraid to drive a car these days. You went down to Emerson. You went down to Emerson and Glide. Got did your driving test and passed just like everybody else. Oh, see, I went to East Rochester for mine.
They failed me in East Rochester.
Emerson and Glide was a lot easier, from what I understand.
Apparently, it was because that's.
And I would not take my driving test, at night in that neighborhood.
Oh no, because your car would be riddled with bullet holes afterward.
I'd be doing my driving test on blocks.
Yeah. So let's conveniently ignore the real societal problems like everyone getting shot every day. As long as we can have someone control our cars, we'll be safe, folks.
Yes, indeed.
Autoblog.com, November of 2020. GM announces 3,000 new hires to help bring EVs to market. An assembly of EVs is a mechanically simpler task, right? You don't have all these engine parts to assemble. Okay. But the new hires will be in the areas of engineering, design, and IT. Electrical system engineers, infotainment software engineers, developers for Java, which is a 10,000-year-old software thing that's just riddled with security holes.
They're
Android
still using
and
Java?
iOS. What's that?
They're still using Java?
A handful of people, like 7 or 8 people on Earth. It's just underneath Apple II as far as being a modern technology.
Yeah, exactly.
It's somewhere between the Atom and the Commodore and Apple II as far as modernity. They stress software as a foundation of GM's technology push, which features a near-wireless vehicle powertrain management system. Okay, when I had my 2000 Oldsmobile, all of the sensors died every day, and the whole car fell to pieces after 6 years, so good luck with the wireless vehicle powertrain management system. And its new digital vehicle platform that supports everything from infotainment to Super Cruise to over-the-air updates. Ooh, updates! As if these cars couldn't get any worse. We're going to give them update
My
tags.
God.
So they destroy themselves after a week. But we care about reliability.
All right, Mark, question for you. What's more reliable, this car or an HP printer?
Oh, that's a tough one. See, the HP printers in most cases die during setup, where these cars might give you a month or two of enjoyable use, while the pop-ups will still torment you, so it's not totally enjoyable. But I'd say these are going to be slightly less terrible.
Okay. All right, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's pretty darn close.
It's pretty close, yeah. It's still going to torment you your entire ownership life.
Oh, of course.
And of course, the car won't be compatible with next week's road, so you'll have to put the car in the garbage and buy a new one, and then you'll have to put the road in the garbage to buy a new road when it's not compatible with next week's car.
So it's gonna automatically drive you to an abandoned Arby's.
What?
Like, oh gosh, like the old. I had an old Garmin thing when I was in school, and I was coming back from I was living in Chicago at the time. I was coming back from something in Indiana. I think it was a lacrosse game in Indianapolis or something, and I wanted something to eat, and I'd put in my Garmin Arby's, and it sent me to an Arby's parking lot that was abandoned in Merrillville, Indiana, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I might die.
I mean, in that case, it's because that particular Garmin hadn't been updated in a while. But of course, they'll tout that. Well, you need constant updates because updates can only help you.
That is correct.
Oh boy. Okay. As we evolve and grow our software expertise, it's important that we continue to recruit, enhance the customer experience, and become a software expertise-driven workforce.
Well, I mean, they probably gave out some certificate for watching a video just like you do to become a Microsoft certified technician.
Yeah, so here's the deal. Remember, this article came out in November of 20, and the GM teams up with Microsoft article was a few months later. It was 3 months later.
Yes.
So apparently they couldn't find 3,000 millennials. They probably couldn't find 3 millennials who would actually come to work for them. So they gave up and partnered with the brand that's known for destruction and chaos.
When Microsoft is your last resort, you might as well just fold it up.
Yes, please go out of business, GM. Okay. Final article, autoblog.com. AAA Club is finds driver assistance tech is, quote, far from reliable. Ha! Wait till they
No
see
kidding.
the Microsoft stuff. It'll be even worse.
Yeah.
August 2020. 2 tests by AAA during the past 2 years show that partially automated driving systems don't always function properly. So they're recommending that the car companies limit their use. But wait a minute, we should always implement technology even when it's half-baked. We have to ship the latest and greatest, right? That's what they love doing, right? And I say this in my book. We live in a world of half-baked, inbred, eternal beta products that these slobs never bothered to test.
Yes.
Researchers encountered problems how many miles? Guess, Mike. How many miles did they get a problem?
I'm at least going to be generous and say 3.
Researcher encountered a problem every 8 miles.
8 miles. Oh,
every
wow.
8 miles they had a problem. Many had trouble spotting simulated broken down vehicles in their path. 2/3 of the time they hit the broken down car at an average speed of 25 miles an hour.
Does it say what they did with hitchhikers?
Let's see here. Well, and I guess they were simulating. They put like a normal car there, and they just watched as it plowed right into it. But it's funny how the media only reports crashed Teslas, but won't bother reporting crashed other brands.
That's very interesting.
Every 8 miles they had a problem.
8 miles.
Researchers said little has changed from 2018. Wait a minute, what about technology? It gets better every day. It gets better. Little has changed from 2018, prompting the recommendation that automakers stop including the technology. That wasn't me. That was them saying stop including the technology. AAA has repeatedly found that active driving assistance systems do not perform consistently, because computers are evil and have no logic and no consistency, by the way, especially
Correct.
in real-world scenarios. Automakers need to work toward more dependable technology. Ha! Dependable! Computer industry. Dependable, they say. They do not perform consistently. But wait a minute, we were promised perfection, and we were told that people are evil and need to be eliminated, and that computers are logical and perfect. But the reality, folks, look at the reality, right? In the IT industry with home computers, they were apparently given a pass because, they're new technology and they're not reliable ever and we should just forgive them. But this is cars. This is a world that used to be reliable, and hopefully society will not accept this downgrade. The systems often quit working with little notice to drivers. Kia's Highway Assist, Driving Assist, Subaru's EyeSight, Ford's Copilot 360, Cadillac's Super Cruise, BMW's Active Driving Assistant Professional, or I wrote in the notes in my handwriting, scumbag chauffeur. Automakers say they tell drivers that their cars aren't fully self-driving. Ha! Right, like they're gonna actually listen.
Do they put that in the fine print with like 4 asterisks after you sign? In the owner's manual.
the same type of fine print where the OneDrive scandal is disclosed.
Yes, exactly.
The systems aren't improving much. In parentheses, what about all the updates, the every 12 seconds updates to all of our filthy products? The systems are not improving much. Early adopters know more about the technology, but as the systems make their way into more mainstream models, people who are less tech savvy will be driving them. Of course, it's all the normal human beings out there who are intelligent, successful people who are tormented and terrified by all of this evil garbage. Anyway, people assume they work, but that's not the case. You can never assume that a computer or a computer-driven car is reliable because they're made by evil slobs. Also, people have become overly reliant on the technology, which could be dangerous when the systems don't work. Again, these people expect it to work. They're told that they're given a product that works. The products that you are sold are not reliable and should never be trusted. There's no standardized way for the vehicles to notify drivers that the systems are disengaging. Yeah, because they're crashing. They're crashing.
Every 8 miles.
Yeah, so it's not like they're going to pop up a window unless you have the HP support assistant, that little question mark bubble in the corner of HP computers, where it tells you when you have a problem, except it
or the
can't.
Microsoft paperclip, how can I help you?
Yeah. You know what? And I was telling a buddy the other day, even though Microsoft Clippy, the paperclip, was discontinued, Clippy lives on in the form of all of these notification attacks and suggestion attacks, like you and I just got from this software.
Software program. Yeah, your computer is too noisy. Are you listening?
Shame on you. Are you saying something hateful? Should we kick you off the platform? There's no standardized way for the vehicles to notify drivers. Some have just a green light on the dashboard while the Cadillac's steering wheel vibrates. Yeah, in order to torment these poor old folks who are driving them and really confuse them. All of the systems had trouble keeping the vehicles in their lanes. All of them. And they came too close to other vehicles and guardrails. All had trouble spotting a simulated broken down vehicle. Problems with the system could slow the adoption of fully autonomous vehicles because owners who experience this technology may not trust it. Good.
No kidding.
I say. Good.
No kidding.
They should never trust it. It's all evil.
Are you sure it was the software that couldn't keep the cars on the road, or just the old people driving?
No, that's the point, is that these arrogant jokers in Silicon Valley want to shame you for being old. Shame on you. You're old, or you're a human, and you're a bag of meat, as they say, and you're not allowed to drive because you should trust computers. Cognitive dissonance, folks. You should trust computers? Hey, you mean that thing you have in your pocket and the thing you have on your desk that never, ever, ever works right? Ever?
Greatest generation, Mark. Greatest generation.
Greatest generation. Noble, wonderful people who fought in World War II, and they have to be subjected to the arrogance of Silicon Valley?
My patients keep telling me, Doc, it sucks getting old. Well, when you hear something like this, they're not wrong.
Yeah, you're not talking about their bodies. You're talking about being old and being faced with all this technology.
Exactly.
I can't imagine. I told someone the other day, I can't imagine if I weren't a technician, how I would deal with this industry. I mean, folks, if you're out there, just remember a couple of things. You don't have to be a technician to know that anytime there's a parentheses recommended, you do the opposite, because recommended means in that big tech company's best interest.
Yeah, I'm not even a technician, and I can tell you, the bare minimum is always the best.
Yeah, don't trust anything they say. And you know what? Learn to smell desperation, by the way. I was always a really clueless kid when I was in high school. I was just clueless and didn't know the social cues and all that stuff. But listen, I can smell
you were friends with me, so that was clue number one.
But smell the desperation, folks. When an update attack pops up and attacks viciously and desperately and begs you to download it, anything like that, smell the desperation and realize they're desperate for a reason, because it's their best interest to attack your product and destroy it so that it's too slow to use to make you go buy another one.
And as you say in your book, which I will have a nice little holiday themed plug for later, you need to be aware of these things. You need to be aware sense the desperation. And I think it was like the first 10 pages of your book or somewhere in there, your computer was working fine before the update attack.
And
There's
now all of a
nothing
sudden
there's nothing that Microsoft or Google or any of these other tech companies can throw at you that's going to make it better.
Right.
I
None
mean,
of it was better. It was all meant to patch something that they forgot, which then
exactly.
breaks everything else.
Exactly. And the only guy in town who can update proof your computer for Windows 10 and I believe Windows 11 too, if I'm not mistaken. So the only guy in town who can do that for you, Mark Anthony Arena, the computer exorcist. This is the man right here. This is the man. You got to listen to him. He's talking truth to reason, and he's trying to save you. He's trying to save you from getting into a nice money pit in your computer.
The constant torment. I don't want to be the only guy in town. So becomeanexorcist.com. If you or anyone you know wants to learn how to do what I do, how to protect people from technology for a living, go to that site. There's a lot of freebies there. Read up on it and buy my training. You can buy the lessons that you need and learn them at your own pace. So what was your plug before we say goodnight, folks? What was your plug for the book?
Mark, it is February. It is February and love is in the air. Guys, you know the way to a lady's heart is through her motherboard. And ladies, the way to a guy's heart is through their hard drive. This Valentine's Day, please practice safe computing. Buy How to Protect Yourself from Your Computer by Mark Anthony Arena. Available anywhere books are sold.
Oh, that's so great. Buy yourself hoodies, coffee mugs, shirts, whatever. It's all on my site, thecomputerexorcist.com. Thanks so much for telling your friends about the show. Thanks so much for listening to us. We will have a lot more fun articles, and come back anytime, Mike. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, Mark. Anytime you want me on, I'll make the time.
We'll talk to you guys next week.
Right.